Do you enjoy the conference? Very tight schedule and it's a very headache all day long. You are a student, you know. So today's my topic. This slide in, last week we have a web meeting, web conference hosted by the AAOU in Hong Kong. So the topic is the tsunami of MOOCs. Just we recognize the tsunami of MOOCs. So everywhere in the world they discuss about MOOCs. So let me introduce the KMOOC today. So we called it, we start from 2 years ago, KMOOC, but these days, Korea MOOC, we would like to. So KMOOC for knowledge sharing. It is very important concept, knowledge sharing there. So the outline of my presentation is like this. First, so KMOOC for open and distance learning. And second one is a KMOOC agenda. We make a planning that activated. So the third one is quality assurance of KMOOC. So last year I co-worked with In Sung Chung, quality assurance for the OER. As you know, the OER, the KMOOC, a MOOC come from OER. So it is a similar, thesis and a similar point, so I would like to shortly introduce that. And this KMOOC workshop, I prepared this slide at the web conference, so I introduced our today's workshop for the Asian country, and one UNESCO, and one Netherlands Fred Mulder, and one Arab, and Hong Kong too, and it's me and Yamada together. So the outline of my presentation is like there. And open and distance learning, as you know, these days OER is a hot issue, open educational resources. So some part is free. If a learner want to get some license or the credit, they have to pay, as you know that. So the OER university concept is we're thinking about that, about MOOC, So first, they learn only the interesting thesis, they choose one. And after that, they got a credit. After that, got a degree, finally. So that process is a concept of the MOOC also. So let me, as you know, the OER, so I define the OER life cycle, like this. And it is a good foundation for the MOOC too. So OER lifestyle, like here, we found and composed, and finally we share together. And OER regional meeting in Bangkok, and after that, the 5 regional meeting, finally in Paris, we declared the OER declaration. So it was translated 14 country language. So in our, the university worked on by researcher, the Young-Suk Chung, translated in Korean language and declaration of the OER. So it is an OER map. In the future, we can make a MOOC map. We can do that. Similar of this OER map there. It was done by the Wawasan Open University in Penang, Malaysia. Let me show the KMOOC agenda like this. Let me introduce Korean KMOOC. Other university already kicked off the MOOC system and MOOC courses they are. So it was KAIST, come from KAIST, That is a very the high-ranking university in Korea. So they use it as a flipped learning concept. Their approach is a flipped learning. So it was research for the developed for the regular offline courses. They before going to the classroom, students warming up and pre-study with the MOOC courses. They use like that way, and also this is their diagram for the support for the offline classes with MOOC. And also, this is also their strategies. So they changed the name KOOC, K-O-O-C, KAIST MOOC, they said. So they would like to this kinds of process, and they also install some courses in Coursera and edX too. So they would like to globalization with these kinds of MOOC courses. That is also their ecosystem. So students and also professor and university and social student industry together, they are very active connection, social networking process. They can use a MOOC ecosystem there. I mentioned before that they renaming the MOOC, you know, KAIST open online courses. So they the agenda is like this till the 2015, 30, and 40 courses and open. And basic concept is a little different from our distance open university like KNOU. So that is used for the supplementary flipped learning system for the ordinary courses. So there are courses on the Coursera there. And also another university, Sookmyung University also, they use as a MOOC, Global MOOC Campus. So through the MOOC system, they make a study group with the other country students together. These are kinds of global campus, you know. So between the Sookmyung and Korean students and the other countries' students, they can discuss and they're peering and they make a study group globally. So there is a different approach for these kinds of MOOC there. So let me introduce the KMOOC project. Our project like this combined with three components, you know. As you know, Dr. Kun Kwak not here. He's very busy. He's the vice president of a company, ICT company for the education. And also Professor So Won Jang from Seoul National University. She will take a presentation, but she has some important meeting with the Ministry of Army. They also this kind of approach. So another researcher will take a presentation. In ordinary university, Seoul National University, and Yeonuk Im is come from the Cyber University in Hanyang Cyber University, and also Karis is our government. Ministry of Education, under the Ministry of Education, they can have another KOCW, very active. So he is also our team member, and Nile include the Nile member, but there are something, so cannot attend this meeting, and it's me together. So as you see in our team, there is, I would like to say that three very important branch, you know, from the government, from the university, and from the company there. So we pull together and we make some KMOOC in the future. So in our university, let me KMOOC like this way, and a concept is lifelong learning. So the people cannot have the open to the educational circumstances. For example, the disabled, handicapped person, or they already have a job but no chance to enter the university. They can have the knowledge desire, you know. So through the MOOC, KMOOC, they can serve that kinds of academic desire. I call this is educational welfare, you know. In Korea, we are saying that kinds of terminology very popularly. So educational welfare is the first concept under the lifelong learning. And second, an educational function. So we have a general concept of the education through the MOOC. And the third one is a social function, you know, on the online, on the web. We can have a very active social networking. So through the MOOC, between the learner and the tutor and professor, between students, they can have a very active in social function together. So let us make KMOOC contents. We define the learning space and lab space and interaction space. You know, when we implement the MOOC system, strong LMS system is very important. By that support, by the system archive, we can cover many the manpower and very active interactivity between the learner and the instructor there. So we define these three kinds of space, and learning space is general, interaction space, and also lab space is for the engineering and industrial field. We need that kinds of lab experiment, you know. So we define three kinds of component when we develop the KMOOC contents they are. So as you know, in KNOU, we have English version e-learning contents we have. So Korean history and culture, and also Korean economic development and statistics by me, and also the Click Korean. When you want to learn the Korean language from the Korean alphabet to the dialogue, you can learn through these e-learning contents. So that kinds of English version contents will be a seed for the MOOC, international MOOC, you know. And some courses are translated in Chinese and Japanese. So in the future, we think about the language barrier by the technology can solve that kinds of language barrier there. So these kinds of courses will be a basis for the KMOOC, global KMOOC. And also when we produce the KMOOC contents like this detailed section, learning point and self-study and experience of fieldwork and connection with advanced learning. So we define this kind of detailed structure. We produce the KMOOC contents. That is our OER, the homepage infrastructure there. So still in Korean language there. So we, after the OER setting, already we kick off. So we promote to the general courses, internet courses and multimedia courses, connect to the MOOC courses they are. So as we, with In Sang-jung, have a project finished last year, quality assurance of OER, like same sense. When we implement the KMOOC, or when you manage the KMOOC, we always keep the quality assurance. So that is our OER, quality assurance for OER concept like here. And as I mentioned before, the right diagram KMOOC could be these kinds of three big branch, you know, the CARIS and EBS and KOICA together, and private is that kinds of company or institute, and very many university put together. And so three kinds of the branch is very important. And also, always we keep the quality assurance of KMOOC. So these kinds of point and factor is we define last project in OER. So from this year or next year, we try to make a quality assurance for a guideline for the KMOOC. That is, we need that kinds of the foundation. We can successfully promote our KMOOC system there. So quality assurance task is different from according to the stage, starting phase and the system setting phase and extending phase, different objectives and different quality assurance focus like here. And finally, I would like to remark that the initial investment of the production of high quality content and delivery service for free and open MOOC should be supported by the official fund. In the morning session, there are many speakers emphasis about that, you know, from the government or from the company like Hewlett-Packard, you know. So there is a foundation invested by that kinds of official fund. And second one is quality assurance should be kept for keeping the characteristics open and free of MOOC. So open and free, the characteristics make us very free of the quality, you know. So we have to keep in mind that kinds of quality assurance point. And the future MOOC will show the new paradigm, be a basis for the lifelong learning. You know, among us, some people come from the ordinary university, some people come from the open university. So the open university approach for the MOOC is a lifelong learning base, I think. So in the future, we can harmonize that kinds of different concept and different approach pulled together. So we would like to make a nationwide, national level KMOOC we promote in the future. Thank you, that's all. And this is already past the conference, our Ministry of Future and Science and Seoul City. So that ministry also interested in the MOOC, you know. So that is already passed, but it was very interesting. And very many people talk about MOOC. Yeah. And let me give us the Fred Mulder's welcome remark. Actually, in our program, I would like to display the Fred, European MOOC leader. He gave us a welcome remark. So let me continue with this. Huh? As you know, the field Mulder is the European UNESCO basis European MOOC leader, you know. So he already make a European network. So after these kinds of Asian MOOC, we make a company. We can pull together with the European MOOC and Asian MOOC together. So he gave us this video file from Netherlands. Netherlands, right?
Good morning, everybody. First of all, I would like to thank the organization for their kind invitation to say some words to you in this welcome message to the KMOOC workshop. I'm quite happy to do so, and I feel honored to be in your midst, although online. Be sure that you will be not the only one in this workshop today on MOOCs, because we are witnessing an exhausting series of events on MOOCs in the last 2 years. But this is a special occasion, I think, where you are presenting yourselves under the KMOOC umbrella, which brings together committed organizations like universities, the government, and industry. Ladies and gentlemen, if we are talking and working with MOOCs, we seem to forget and seem to ignore that there's two major developments that brought forward the MOOCs expansion, actually. And so MOOCs have their roots. And we all know what MOOC stands for. MOOCs is about massive open online courses, and certainly open and online have their roots a long time ago. Massive, of course, we know stands for many participants, but the root really is for the open education development. That goes back to the 19th century, when the University of London started its correspondence program for international students. In the 20th century, the Open University movement started with UNISA in South Africa, and of course the Open University of the UK in 1971 gave a big boost to the open education movement. That was followed up by many other open universities, including the Korea National Open University. Then in 2002, there was an interesting digital infusion to the open education movement by the Open Educational Resources developments. The online development also goes back some time, you could say back to the 50s in the last century, where we saw new technology, new media coming in, like radio, television, cassette recorders, computer applications, intelligent tutoring systems, and it really was not mainstreaming education at all. The mainstream came when the internet came in and was discovered as a very powerful and potential means for communication and interaction in education. And of course the courses, we know what courses are. The MOOCs started in the US, as we all know, and still the MOOCs movement is predominantly from the US. It started in 2011 and it expanded massively, and we all know the major providers currently are Coursera, edX, and Udacity. The response in Europe came a little bit later. Some universities joined the US initiatives, others decided to start themselves, and also in 2013 we saw a number of new initiatives coming in to work with a country-based or language-based platform, for example, Future Learn in the UK, MediaDux in Spain, Diversity in Germany, and Fun in France. And then in April 2013 there was the launch, together with the European Commission, of the first and so far only pan-European initiative, which is called Open Up Ed. Open Up Ed is an initiative from the European Association of Distance Teaching Universities and 11 partners, mostly open universities in Europe. 12 languages are being used, not only English, but also the other European languages, of course. There is a portal rather than a platform, a portal that is referring to the platforms of the partners, and we have a set of 8 common features that we decided on, and we are currently a pretty big provider in Europe. That was the response in Europe. The response in Korea, of course, is KMOOC, I would suggest, and I hope you will succeed. It's important to realize that MOOCs have different drivers, and it's also important to be aware where you stand with your own initiative. I would like to distinguish 5 major drivers. The first one being is to gain reputation and to offer a strong marketing potential by which you can attract more or better students internationally. The second driver is to start up new businesses to generate revenue. As we can see, quite some initiatives coming up in the MOOCs world with this aim. The third driver might be that you would like to innovate university education on the side, so not in the core of the system, but on the side in a niche by which you could say that you're disrupting the system. The fourth driver could be that you would like to modernize university education, but then in harmony, in synergy with the existing system, by which MOOCs are certainly part of the normal operation. And the fifth driver is to respond to the demands of learners and societies, and that you could say is related to, first of all, for the learners to really open up education to all of them, and secondly, in terms of society, to be aware of the values for education in society and to serve them by your initiative. Now, Open Abad, the European initiative, is applying the fifth driver, and the fifth driver, as I say here, is connected to opening up education and to serving values for education. So this is the twofold mission of Open Abad. First of all, to contribute to opening up education by removing all barriers which are not really necessary, and to offer incentives to the learners as much as possible, incentives to create the best conditions for progress and for success. And the second part of the mission is to cherish fundamental values for education in societies such as equity, so that we can reach all people, all learners or potential learners, independent of their circumstances and their personal situation. Diversity, which means that we are very keen on working with diversity in terms of culture, in terms of the pedagogics, so there's no one single model that is being applied for all. It's a diversity among different countries and different languages and so on. Quality is a very important issue for us. Quality is top priority to offer really quality education. And the last one is autonomy. We are very sharp on having autonomous learners, autonomous teachers and autonomous institutions. And the characteristics of Open Abad are being summarized here. Of course, the learner is at the center. We are using the self-study model, which is very famous for the open universities. We are using high quality learning materials. We are cherishing diversity in language and culture, as I said before. And we are working not in the private domain, but in the public domain. And we have a decentralized model, which means that it's institutions that are in the lead and are responsible for the operations, and also they have their own platforms rather than that we have a central platform. You could think about this whole idea of opening up education, which of course is not restricted to Europe. This could have really global relevance and global scope. So that's why we are reaching out to open universities or similar operations and their associations in the other regions. We have a strong interest in partnering with similar initiatives that are also focusing on opening up education and have a central position for the fundamental values for education. And we wish to work then in the global network of linked regional initiatives, maximizing the joint benefits that we can achieve, like common branding, sharing expertise and content, and facilitating the global learners. And why not? We could think about, I think, a collaboration between Open Abad in Europe and KMOOC in Korea, and I would certainly like to look forward to such a possible collaboration. And This now completes my welcome message to you, and I would like to thank you for your attention, and let's keep in touch, and we'll see what comes out. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Bergman. I've finished 5 presentations. We have some idle candidates for our question and answer. So, any questions for our speakers?
The 4 presentations by the different countries, seems as if the government are working individually to promote book in their countries. Are the governments working together in Asia, like the Thai government, the Korean government, the Japanese? Are they collaborating in terms of book, or is it just individual governments?
That there is ASEAN MOOC initiative led by Paul. I think that's, yeah, but then they I guess added another initiative, ASEAN MOOC initiative. I don't think any of them. Okay. Oh, okay. She can introduce them more. ASEAN MOOC.
Thank you. It's a great honor to introduce our project. The ASEAN Cyber University Project, that is A3 project. It's funded by our Ministry of Education, and it started 2011 actually. For the last 4 years, we have been providing our experiences and skills, and also share our old experience for even establishment, targeting 10 ASEAN countries. As a first phase, we have been focusing on facilitating for infrastructures in e-learning, targeting 4 countries first: Cambodia, Laos, Myanmar, and Vietnam. And based on those 4-year projects, we have realized that we are sharing our contents and educational pedagogies in terms of open educational resources. So we started to sharing the contents that each university developed, and we actually put that as well. And we started to share all those contents and also teaching materials in terms of education sharing, focusing in each regions for with 4 countries first. So now this year, actually last week, we have a huge open forum and conference with CLMV and TIMV and Singapore Korea as well. So we started to extend our academic pedagogies through e-learning in terms of sharing contents and teaching materials step by step. So currently, we have been sharing all the contents, e-learning contents produced by each different countries in terms within the scope of the ASEAN basis. So it cannot be called, I'm not quite sure we can put the name of MOOC, but the purpose and the cause of education can be the MOOC. That's what I can briefly.
Thank you for your comment. Question? Please introduce yourself first.
My name is Young from National Institute for Lifelong Education, which is called NILE. I have 2 questions for the speakers. We have 4 speakers, tangible speakers. The first one is, I think that the situation of the KMOOC or MOOC depends upon the history of higher education of each country. And compared to the universities in Europe or the USA, the university in Asia, we have a very short history. Then also that the accumulation of those who finished higher education, the people with the higher education degrees are relatively very low in the total population compared to the European partners or the USA partners. Then we still have a still big gap to fill out in terms of how to raise the people with higher education. Then, in that sense, how can the KMOOC play in terms of raising the rate of the higher education? I mean, the people with higher education degree. Second question is that. I know that it's my understanding that the history of, I can say, the situation of MOOC in USA, the key driver, key player in the USA is private sector. Then the Korean and other Asian friends, the key players, it is my understanding that the government. The government has funds and ideas, also they operate all the higher education system. Then how can we promote the private sector to participate into KMOOC? So I have two questions. The government, the role of, the second question is the role of the government in Asia in terms of promotion of the KMOOC. The first question is that how can the KMOOC or the MOOC can raise the rate of the people with higher education. Thank you.
Okay, is any of the speakers? Or any others?
I just like to make a short comment on your United Nations situation. It's not U.S. U.S. situation. Sorry. It's not the private sector who is driving this initiative. It's a university. Stanford, Harvard, MIT. Stanford is at the center, but the money for Coursera comes from venture capitalists and then some other foundations, whereas edX mostly from the university foundation. So they're non-profit. Udacity, I think they are going for profit, but they are working closely with universities. San Jose State University and then Georgia Tech. I think they just create a master's degree, master's program based on MOOC. So it's not private sector. I think Japan MOOC, as Yoshida Professor, yeah, sorry, it's more, the money comes from private sectors. So it's a little different.
Even though I am a moderator of the session, I'd like to ask a question. Please, just a moment. Professor Yamada, with regard to the role of the government, with regard to your question, the Asian perspective, as you mentioned, the government play a big role in promoting the initiative in China. So, with regard to e-learning, distance learning, OER, I found that in many cases, Korean government and Asian governments played a big role in some years. The agenda becomes losing power and disappears. So I think in this case, especially in this case, the case of MOOC, the sustainability, very important. So from the whole presentation, the Japan's case was a little different, I think, from other three countries. Korea personally emphasized the official fund is very important for supporting MOOCs, and T3 is also supported by government. Malaysia also funded by government. But Japanese case was a little different. So I'd like to know some more detail about your consortium or the structure of the team or the structure of the Japanese group.
Okay, so Japanese government is also, I
think, very deep interest in MOOC phenomenon. But they are still, so in my understanding, so consider they need some survey of MOOC phenomenon. So one of the reasons, so they are very strong. So maybe our government pay so for some kind of higher education reform, using ICT or something. But first of all, the MOOC, the term of MOOC, so it's very difficult for them to understand. So change, if we don't use this buzzword, maybe they have many options. Another point is, as you may know, Japanese government finance state is not huge. So this is another point. So they now have some budget to survey so this phenomenon. So we are just to investigate. So today I have a very nice data images from you. So many other governments pay for it. So I will report to our secretary.
Thank you. Professor?
I just want to share experience that just now I didn't have the opportunity to share. Actually, the nation also started with individual. Some of the professors, it started like, I call it individual driven. They are very passionate about it. One from Taylor's International University, professor, one of the professor in engineering, dean of engineering professor, and another one from Science Malaysia, Prof. Karim, and a few from Multimedia University and International Medical University. They started that actually, means individually. They go to Coursera and all that. After that, actually, they also propose through the e-learning council. Then they greatly promote to the minister, to the ministry. Then get really support from the ministry. Then only the ministry to, is like that to the council. So it's also by the individual driven, because we know that in order to carry out MOOC, we need a very, very passionate lecturer or professor or instructor. They must be passionate about it, about online and so on. If you are not into it, I don't think it will be a successful one. So it also started with individual information.
Thank you for your comment. Any more questions? No more questions. So, okay, great. It's 3:13. The second afternoon